Michelle Yeoh's Section 31 is a perfect way for Star Trek to introduce young Picard. Michelle Yeoh's Paramount Plus movie, Star Trek Section 31, would be the perfect way for Star Trek to introduce a younger Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. In Section 31, Yeoh reprises her role as Star Trek Discovery's Emperor Philippa Georgiou. After the USS Discovery jumped to the 32nd century, Georgiou needed to return to a time when the Prime Universe and Mirror Universe were closer together. The Guardian of Forever, Paul Guilfoyle, sent Philippa Georgiou back to the early 24th century, also known as Star Trek's Lost Era, between Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and Star Trek, The Next Generation. Few Star Trek projects have been set in the Lost Era before Star Trek Section 31, but Star Trek The Next Generation has occasionally referenced this elusive part of the Star Trek timeline. Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 14, Tapestry, spends a significant amount of time in the Lost Era when Q, John D. Lanky, takes Picard to his first year out of Starfleet Academy in 2327. Wesley Crusher, Will Wheaton, views a posthumous recording of his father, Commander Jack R. Crusher, Doug Wirt, in TNG Season 4, Episode 2, Family. Section 31 could introduce young Picard to Star Trek. Star Trek Section 31 could introduce a younger version of Jean-Luc Picard to Star Trek. Depending on when Star Trek Section 31 takes place, Picard would be either a Starfleet Academy cadet or in the early days of his Starfleet career. Promotional material doesn't include a younger Picard on Georgiou's Section 31 team, so if Picard is anywhere near Star Trek Section 31's action, it's most likely going to be just a cameo. An Easter egg might reference Picard as an ensign aboard the USS Reliant, or even the young captain of the USS Stargazer if it's after 2333. While Picard appearing in Star Trek Section 31 is unlikely, it might not be that far out of bounds for Picard to have a history with Section 31. TNG's Tapestry showed that Jean-Luc was far more reckless in his youth than the distinguished USS Enterprise captain that Picard eventually becomes. Section 31 agents aren't really allowed to retire or even refuse service, so Captain Picard's morals aren't really relevant if Ensign Picard jumped at the chance for espionage. Picard's secret mission in TNG Season 6, Episodes 10 and 11, Chain of Command, might have even been a Section 31 operation. A young version of Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek would also pave the way for Star Trek to introduce younger versions of Dr. Beverly Crusher, Gates McFadden, and LT. Commander Jack R. Crusher. Star Trek The Next Generation alluded to the strong friendship between Jean-Luc and Jack, which expanded to include Jack's fiancée, Beverly Howard. The trio of Jean-Luc, Jack, and Beverly would have certainly gotten up to their fair share of adventures before Commander Crusher's 2353 death. Admiral Picard recounts one such adventure to his son, also named Jack Crusher, Ed Spaliers, in Star Trek Picard Season 3. Younger versions of Picard have appeared in Star Trek before, but wouldn't be eligible to return. Tom Hardy's Shinzen was a clone of Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek Nemesis, and David Birkin played a 12-year-old Jean-Luc in Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 7, Rascals. Interestingly, both Hardy and Birkin are 47 years old in 2024, the same age that Patrick Stewart was when Stewart began playing Captain Picard in Star Trek The Next Generation. Star Trek Section 31 would have to recast a much younger actor to play Picard in his 20s, so it's possible. The world of Star Trek has always been about exploration, diplomacy, and the moral complexities of the universe. Over its decades-long run, the franchise has introduced many legendary characters, none more iconic than Jean-Luc Picard, the quintessential Starfleet officer. However, as Star Trek has evolved and branched out into new stories and diverse timelines, opportunities have arisen to expand its universe in fresh ways. One such opportunity comes with the highly anticipated Section 31 series led by Michelle Yeoh, which could be the perfect platform to introduce a young Jean-Luc Picard into the Star Trek canon, offering fans a new perspective on this beloved character. The mystique of Section 31. The concept of Section 31 is one of the darker and more morally ambiguous elements within the Star Trek universe. Originally introduced in Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Section 31 is essentially Starfleet's clandestine Black Ops division, often operating outside the bounds of traditional Starfleet principles. It represents a stark contrast to the idealistic vision of exploration and peaceful coexistence that the Federation promotes, making it a perfect narrative vehicle for diving into grayer, more complex storylines. Michelle Yeoh, who portrays the cunning and resourceful Emperor Philippa Georgiou in Star Trek Discovery, has been confirmed to headline the Section 31 spin-off. Her character's journey is already one of moral complexity, as she hails from the Mirror Universe, a dark counterpart to the Federation's utopian ideals. Her transition to Section 31 seems a natural fit, promising a rich exploration of the covert, morally compromised world of espionage and covert operations. This setting offers the perfect opportunity for Star Trek to introduce a young Jean-Luc Picard, a figure whose moral compass would be deeply challenged by Section 31's methods. Young Picard, a new beginning. One of the most exciting prospects of seeing a young Picard in the Section 31 series is the chance to explore his early years in Starfleet, long before he became the confident, measured captain we know. Fans have long wondered about Picard's backstory, especially his formative years and the experiences that shaped him into the revered leader of the USS Enterprise. While Star Trek, Picard has given us glimpses of his past, a deeper exploration of his early years could add new layers to his character. A young Picard in the Section 31 series would be far more impulsive, idealistic, and perhaps even arrogant than the seasoned, contemplative captain we're familiar with. This version of Picard might still be grappling with personal loss, such as his father's death or his fraught relationship with his brother, and struggling to find his place in Starfleet. By introducing him in Section 31, the series could show how Picard's ideals and principles were put to the test, particularly in the shadowy world of espionage, where the line between right and wrong is often blurred. A clash of ideals. The most intriguing element of bringing a young Picard into the Section 31 narrative is the potential for ideological conflict between him and Georgiou. Picard, even in his youth, is known for his deep commitment to Federation principles, honesty, transparency, and peaceful diplomacy. These ideals would be in stark contrast to the methods employed by Section 31, which often involve subterfuge, deception, and morally questionable tactics to protect the Federation. The tension between Picard's idealism and Section 31's pragmatism would create rich narrative opportunities. How would a young Picard react to being recruited by Section 31 or finding himself caught in one of their covert operations? Would he go along with their methods, rationalizing that the ends justify the means, or would he rebel, refusing to compromise his moral integrity? These are the kinds of questions that could deepen Picard's character and make for compelling drama. In this context, Michelle Yeoh's Georgiou would serve as both a mentor and a foil to Picard. Her character, with her vast experience in the morally gray territories of the Mirror Universe and Section 31, could challenge Picard to question his own beliefs and strategies. Georgiou might see potential in the young officer, but she would also push him to confront the realities of a dangerous galaxy, where sometimes difficult choices have to be made. Bridging old and new audiences, the inclusion of a young Picard in Section 31 would also serve a crucial purpose for the franchise's ongoing expansion. Star Trek has always thrived on its ability to attract both longtime fans and new audiences. By introducing a young Picard into the gritty, morally ambiguous world of Section 31, the show would appeal to fans who love classic Star Trek characters, while also inviting newer viewers who may not be as familiar with Picard's long history. Moreover, this new depiction of Picard could lay the groundwork for future stories, possibly even setting up a new series focused on his rise through Starfleet ranks.